This video gonna focus on functions and relation. Let's look into the definition of a function. Let's write. A function is a mathematical law that relates the dependent variable and independent variable. A function is a mathematical law that relates the dependent variable and independent variable. Let's look into dependent variable and let's know what independent variable is. Okay, when we say dependent variable are subject letters. When we say independent variables are the letters that are not the subject. Okay, so mathematically function can be written as y equal to f of s. Of course, this is the subject letter, which is y in this particular expression here, and we call this dependent variable or letter. This s here is not the subject letter, we call it independent variable. The f here represents function. Please take note. Let's look into one of the function here. Please write inverse of a function. Inverse of a function. Inverse of a function f of s can be expressed as f raised to the power minus 1 of s. Inverse of a function f of s can be expressed as f raised to the power of minus 1 of s. It means that we can represent or we can denote the inverse of a function as this. Please take note. So if we are given the function as g of s, the inverse of this can be denoted as g raised to the power minus 1 of s. So if you are given a function as w of s, please take note of this. The inverse of this function will be w raised to the power minus 1 of s. So the representation of the inverse of the function depends on the function given to us there. If we are given g of s, we represent the inverse as this. If we are given w of s, we represent the inverse as this. Please take note. Okay, before we take a question here, let's take a note here. Please write. Note that to evaluate inverse of a function, we make letter s the subject of the formula. We make letter s the subject, sorry. Note that to evaluate inverse of a function, we make letter s the subject and replace y as s s as the inverse of the function. We replace y as s as the inverse of the function. Okay, let's take question 1 here to understand this note here. Okay, question 1, please. Let's take question 1 to understand this note. Question 1, it said, find inverse of the function f of s equal to 3. Find inverse of a function f of s equal to 2s plus 3. Find inverse of the function f of s equal to 2s plus 3. So we are given a function here, class. This is the function given to us here. And we are asked to find the inverse of this function. Okay, now let's solve this, please. And let's solve this question, please. They said f of s is equal to 2s plus 3. And we know that for us to find the inverse of any function, the first thing is to make letter s the subject letter, okay? But before we do that, we have to change this function here to a letter. Please take note. So how do we change any function to a letter? We all know that y is equal to f of s. Please take note. What does it mean here? It means that to represent a function as a letter is y. To represent a letter as a function is to represent y as a function is f of s. Please take note. If you are given y and you are asked to represent that as a function, it's f of s. So if you are given f of s, if you're asked to represent that as a letter, it's y. So representing f of s as a letter, we have this to be class. Y is equal to 2s plus 3. So class, we have to make, the next step here, we have to make letter s the subject letter. So I will take items here. When you do that, I will move this guy here plus, that is plus 3 from right hand side to left hand side, okay? I will have this to be y minus 3 is equal to 2s. So my intention here is to make s to stand alone, and I will divide both sides by the coefficient of s. So I will divide here by 2 and also do the same thing here, divide here by 2. Why? Because in equation, we have a law in equation, and the law states that whatsoever you apply at the right hand side, you also apply that at the left hand side. Please take note. So this will cancel this class, and I'll be left with y minus 3 over 2 is equal to s. Please take note. So in mathematics, if I have this to be 2 is equal to s, it is the same as s is equal to 2. Please take note. So class, this expression can also be written as s is equal to y minus 3 over 2. So from the notes, we are asked to make s the subject letter. That's the first step. The second step is to change s as its inverse and y as s. So I will change this to the inverse. The function we have is f of s. So the inverse of f of s is f of raised power minus 1 of s is equal to, you change the letter of y as what? S minus 3 over 2. So class, this is the inverse of 2s plus 3. Okay, now let's solve question 2, please. Let's solve this question here. This question 2 in inverse of a function. And they said the inverse of this, what we are given, the inverse of g raised power minus 1 of s of the function g of s is equal to g of s equal to s squared minus 2 will be, okay? Now we are given options here, so we have to solve this and check out the right option, okay? We have to solve this and check out the right option here, okay? Now let's solve this, please. Solution. So the function given to us here is g of s equal to s squared minus 2. And remember this, that when you are given a function and you are asked to find the inverse of the function, the first thing is to make letter s the subject letter, okay? But before them here, let's change this function here as a letter, okay? To change g of s as a letter is y is equal to class is equal to s squared minus 2. So the next here is to make letter s the subject letter. So I'll have to take items here. When you take items here, I will take anything that's not of s to be in one place. Please take note. I will take minus 2 from right hand side to left hand side, please take note. I will have y plus 2 is equal to s squared. So class, if I have something like this in mathematics, s squared is equal to 4, of course, you will take the square root of both sides, okay? I will have s is equal to square root of 4. Am I correct? So do the same thing here, class. Before making s the subject, remember that um, y plus 2 equal to s squared can also be written as s squared is equal to y plus 2. So make s the subject. S will be equal to square root of y plus 2. So the second, third statement in evaluation of inverse of a function states that you make s the inverse as you change y as s. So that means I'll make this s here as the inverse. So the function is g of s. The inverse of g of s is g raised to power minus 1 of s is equal to square root of, you change y to s, that is s plus 2. So class, this is my answer here. So that um, the option is A. Okay. Now let's solve the next question here. Given question 3 here, they said determine the inverse of the function g of s equal to s minus 1 raised to power 1 over 3. Okay, let's solve this question here. Okay, before we solve this question here, we have to understand that in indices, if I have a raised to power 1 over 2 is the same as square root of a as a root. So this root as a power is this here. Okay, so if I have the same thing here, a raised to power 1 over 3 is the same as cube root of a. Please take note. So please take note of this, okay? Now if you apply the same thing here, class, if you apply the same thing here, our g of s can also be written as, please take note, cube root of s minus 1, okay? Now we can easily remove this cube right here. That is, I have to cube, okay? Now this is our expression here. So the next thing here is to change this function here as a letter. Remember? So when you do that, this will be y equal to cube root of s minus 1. So class, the next thing here is to remove this cube here, okay? So to remove this cube, I will cube the right hand side and the left hand side. So when you do that, I will have this to be y raised to the power of 3 is equal to cube root of s minus 1 all cube. Okay, so this guy, we cancel this guy here. Please take notes. So when you do that here, I will have this to be y raised to the power of 3 is equal to s minus 1. Our intention here is to make s the subject. When you do that here, I will have y raised to the power of 3 plus 1 is equal to s. And this is the same as s is equal to y raised to the power of 3 plus 1. Okay, now from our statement, to evaluate inverse of a function, we said we make s the subject. Of course, this is the subject of s here. And the second statement is to replace y as s as we replace s as its inverse. So the inverse here, the function is g, the inverse will be g inverse of s is equal to s raised to the power of 3 plus 1. So class, this is our answer here, okay? Let's move to the next function, please. Composition of a function.